What's new, 802? I'm Becca Hammond, and you're listening to Vermont Talks. Vermont Talks may include graphic or explicit content. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Vermont Talks. I'm here today with Phil and Mitch of YABAI, and it is the 18th of February, and we're in Burlington, and it is the 54th episode of Vermont Talks. And YABAI, exclamation point, very important, is a sunny, upbeat, punk emo-influenced indie rock group from Burlington, Vermont. Here today we have Phil, like I just said, who plays guitar and does lead vocals, and Mitch, who also does guitar and vocals. Not with us today is Eric, who does bass and vocals, and Scott, who does drums. Sorry, Scott, drums and vocals. Welcome, Phil. Welcome, Mitch. How you guys doing?
Hey, doing great. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here. Yeah.
Can you please tell me what YABAI means? And I want to spell it out real quick. YABAI, exclamation point. We got to get that down. What's it mean?
Yeah, so YABAI is a Japanese expression that means holy shit. So, we figured that'd be just about the best band name we could come up with. The very, very beginning phase of this band, I think before we even had a practice, before Mitch was even
I wasn't in the
part of
band
it, because Mitch joined after 2 weeks of jam sessions, I think. Anyway, we were trying to figure out what the band name was going to be, and I had just come back from living in Japan for a couple of years, and I was teaching high school English, and so I heard a lot of yabai, yabai, and I was like, yeah, okay. And so when I ended up texting the guys, I was like, I know what the band name is. I figured it out. It's YABAI, because they both heard me talk ad nauseum about my time in Japan. And they were like, okay, yep, got it. That's the band name. And I don't know, it just felt perfect. Having to explain it, the SEL of it, not the best, but you know what? It's YABAI. So, we just love the all caps exclamation point band name, YABAI.
When you scream it like that, it fits so well. When I first read it and I hadn't heard you scream it like that, I was like, how do I say this? But now it fits so well. I feel like you need the soundbite of the band name, and you really appreciate it. So let's talk a little bit about both of you. So, Phil, I know you're from Massachusetts, right?
Yes, that's right.
And tell me about your musical journey through the years. Where did you start? Why did you start? Anything you want to share, because I know everyone asks about influences and stuff, but whatever you want to talk about, tell me about your life with music.
Sure. Well, I started playing bass in the 8th grade because I wanted to be in a rock band. I decided that would be a cool thing to do. I was a tween going through phases, and the phase was be in a rock band. And then the next year I was able to actually make that happen with a couple new friends at a new high school, and then started singing and playing bass in a couple bands in high school. And then about halfway through high school, I kind of dropped the bass, got more interested in guitar, and then started playing guitar in bands, and then went to college, kind of transitioned away from the pop rock, indie rock kind of thing that I'd been doing in high school, and kind of leaned more into the acoustic side of things. Did a lot of solo singer-songwriter things, spent a little bit of time in a punk band. But was mostly just doing my own thing. And then I kind of got away from music. It stopped being a passion of mine for several years. Around 2017 or so, my interest just started to shift. I got more into snowboarding and hiking and cycling, and music just kind of fell by the wayside, but then randomly got back into it just in time to basically form YABAI. And it was my first time really playing music in, I would say, about 6 years. So, yeah.
Solid. Very solid. Mitch, how about you? Where are you from? And what's your musical journey been like?
Yeah. So I'm from Burlington, Vermont. So from here. But I would say mine is kind of a less exciting version of Phil's story. Not entirely, but I was in a few bands and had always been very into rock music from a very young age. And yeah, I don't know. Phil and I are both left-handed, which I think is a fun little tidbit. And so I'd always grew up like idolizing certain guitarists, and always had a thing for like left-handed guitarists because I was like, yeah, that's like me.
I can relate.
And like me at like 10 was like, all right, well, like I can't get a Stratocaster because that's like the Jimi Hendrix guitar, and everyone's gonna be like, oh, you're left-handed, it's a Stratocaster. And then so I got a Les Paul, which I like playing, but like, you know, they're all great for different reasons. But you know, that was sort of the energy I feel like I had as a kid. I was like, all right, yep, this is the start of something. Like, but then I didn't through most of high school, and honestly, even like most of college, I was making music, but like, I don't know, it never felt like I'd had anything sort of polished or anything sort of had come about of it. For a couple of years, I did like some, like soundscape kind of stuff, just playing like ambient guitar. Yep. And that was pretty cool at like some local art houses and stuff like that. But yeah, other than that, I don't know, not a ton, but YABAI's been great.
You know, I think it should be said that Mitch and I met through a professor of ours. We were both in the same Champlain class, and that professor was a poetry professor. I studied writing. Mitch studied creative media. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
What was the professor's name?
Jim Ellefson.
I think I've met. I used to go to the Young Writers Con.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Jim's a cool guy. And,
I think I met him.
He saw something in both me and Mitch, and he's like, you guys got to meet. So, you know, we met, and we got to jamming, and I think that was the first time I heard Mitch play guitar. And I'm sure you've heard
a long time ago,
It was a long time ago. But he's a great guitarist. And,
well, thank you.
Yeah. I don't know. I took issue with the fact that you said that your story was less exciting. I don't know if that's
I don't
true.
mean that in like I guess I meant that in terms of bands playing at actual venues type of thing. But not like necessarily, yeah. No.
Yeah.
Playing out is a whole other ballgame.
Sure is.
Like, it's really not...
I've just struggled even just getting gigs as a solo musician.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. I
it's
think,
a lot of hustling. Like,
yeah.
It's not
And I'm
simple.
bad at networking. Like, I'm not...
I'm the same way. I like playing music by myself. Like, that's what I do too. Is just kind of jam, whatever. It doesn't need to be anything official.
Right.
And then I finish playing whatever I'm playing, and I'm just kind of like, whatever. And it falls off into the ether. So I can appreciate the not.
I've been there before.
Like, you don't have to have anything official. You don't have to make an album, but it's funny because I know a lot of musicians in the same exact boat. Like, there's some really wonderful musicians who have 26 albums by the time they're 30, and then there's some who are like, I just jam. And then they play and you're like, oh, you're a god. Okay.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so much talent just hiding in random bedrooms.
Yes. Yeah. Especially around Burlington area.
Oh, yeah.
So how long has it been since YABAI officially formed? First question.
I think we would have to say that YABAI formed in its current spot when Mitch started jamming with us, which I think was late October of 2023. Is that right? Maybe
that sounds right. Either late October or early I think it may have been early November, but around that time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, either way, you could say it's like YABAI is a year and change old.
Got it. Cool. Because you've played a handful of shows out.
Yeah.
Any particular that you're like, this was the best one so far? Any that you're like, oh, cringe?
Oh, man, we could definitely talk about both of those. I think our best show was probably Mitch's birthday show.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that one was pretty chill. I don't know, just because there were so many people there that I just was like, oh, I know that person, because I was like, it's my birthday, come see us play.
The incredible leverage of going to somebody's show and it's their birthday is crazy. But also, I think we just played really, really well. We usually end our sets with a song called Plum Island. We do a little vamp towards the end of the song where I introduce the band members. And then at that show, it was like the end of our last song in our set. And I think we were the last band playing too. And as I introduced Mitch, I said, oh, by the way, it's his birthday. Let's stop and sing him happy birthday. And then everybody in the audience sang Mitch happy birthday while we all stopped playing for a sec. And then once we'd done that, we just hopped right back into the vamp. And that might be my single favorite moment of playing live music as YABAI. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that as well.
What venue was that one at?
Despacito. The classic, the great.
Despacito.
Yeah, got a shout out to Despacito.
Always.
Every band in town seems to have played there.
I think
multiple times.
We've played a couple other venues, but most of our shows so far have been there.
Yeah.
And that place is great.
We love Despacito. They very odd stage area. You're kind of like funneled into this triangle, and you have to pick one of the corners to play in.
The angle you want.
Yeah. But the sound punches above its weight, and people show up, and they are just happy to book anybody. And I just really appreciate that, because a lot of other venues in town, you know, it's just harder to book there. So Despacito was like, yep, we'll have you. We sound good. Come play. So I just really, really appreciate that about Despacito.
Yeah.
They also they have these like big windows too, which like I like when they're open and bands are playing, because you can like, in the summer at least, you can be outside and just be like, I'm outside, not like 10 degrees warmer in there with everyone, and I can still hear the band. I don't know. Something about that's nice.
It's enticing too.
Yeah.
You know, you walk by and it's like, what is happening in there?
What's going on there?
Yes, everyone looks every time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Check out who's in
I
there
love
playing.
Despacito sidewalk lookers. Shout out to Despacito sidewalk lookers.
So tell me about the cringy shows. Was there anything? What went wrong? Why was it cringy?
Okay. Also at Despacito, we had a show, and I think it was primed to go pretty well, but it went very poorly because when we were going there, I butt dialed my tuner's frequency away from 440 hertz, and so my guitar was like 1.1 something steps or half steps away from what it should be, and then we all could not figure out for the life of us what was going on. You know, we were tuning. Nothing was sounding right. It sounded atrocious. So I kind of regret this now, but we just, we barreled forward. We just like charged head on into our set, not understanding what was going on. And we just did it. We did not sound good. And I feel like a lot of lessons were learned there. Don't play if you're not sounding good. Take a moment to figure out what's going on. It's okay. The audience will forgive you. 2, get a damn tuning pedal. So I got a damn tuning pedal, and Eric got one too, and Mitch already had one.
I already had one. I feel bad in retrospect of that, because like in the moment I kept like, when you were struggling with tuning, and I think Eric was also struggling with tuning. I think that's why you got that.
No, he was tuning against me, and that was why he was struggling.
I see. Okay. But like when we found out what was going on with it, I was like, oh, I feel like I should have known, because I knew what thing you were using to tune, and I was like, why
it's all
is
good though.
Anyway.
And in hindsight's 2020.
It's fine now.
Why
Anyway, though.
should the app let you do that?
That's a good question. And I will say I don't like that tuner anymore, because the way that we discovered this, that it had gone to like 428 hertz or something like that, was that next weekend I was tracking 3 different songs for our album. I spent an entire day in like 8-10 hour session just making sure I had absolutely flawless takes, like 4 takes for each of these songs. And then I sent them off to the band, and then Eric said, or he said to the group chat, Phil, is it just me, or are all of your takes out of tune, like on every single song? And this was like a week after this show disaster, and I was like connecting the dots in my head. I felt like that meme of the woman doing math, you know?
Yeah.
You know, that meme where she's thinking of equations and theorems in her head. Anyway, I felt like her. And then I was like, I'm taking another look at this tuner. And then when I saw that it was not set to 440 hertz, like the aha moment was legendary. And all that work undone. And that, you know, I don't know.
What a bummer.
It's a bummer, but again, lesson learned, you know? Like, I will never, ever, ever make that mistake again.
I feel like we've also just had a lot of, like, not the tangent from the rest of that Despacito story. I don't know if you had more, but I feel like there's a lot of just things we learned over the, because we're pretty much done making our album now. And like, there were so many things that like, we just like, I was like, oh, I have to just redo that. I did that wrong. Or like, you know, things like that where it's like, oh, this didn't work at all. So we just spent hours working on a part that just didn't end up in the song at all. Like,
that's art.
It's like, oh, all right.
It was a grind.
It might fall over. It's okay.
And it was the first experience that any of us had recording an album before, and we did it
especially that way, because I've recorded some stuff in the past, but not with any sort of professional level, but like with like some of the equipment we use. But like anyway, that aside, yeah, the way we did it was pretty. Do you want to explain some of that?
Sure. So we hired a producer, Michael Barrett, who's based out of Germany. He is Scott's older brother.
Cool.
And also just, he's a phenomenal producer. He's produced quite a bit of music. So he had us record our takes here in this house for the most part. I think Eric recorded his takes elsewhere. But anyway, so we got a kind of a sphere that you fit over a recording mic, and then that kind of creates its own soundproof room. So we're able to record right in the basement or right here in the living room and have it sound pretty good, which is nice. And then Michael's job is to mix that. He'd do some production elements first, right? Yeah, he would work on the tones. He would usually have like Zooms with each one of us about what we want for the song, and then mix it. And then once we all have signed off on that, go into mastering from there. And each song was quite a process, not just the recording, but the figuring out what we want out of it. I'm really, really proud of the result. We're not 100% done, but we are 95% done.
Yeah, I was like, we're pretty close.
Yeah.
But
nice. Yeah. Did you play, so you each separately recorded your tracks, or you played
That's right.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and we also, for at least the stringed instruments, we did a direct in kind of thing. So we didn't use amplifier. We didn't record, or we didn't use microphones to record the guitar sounds, which for me specifically was very, I'd never done, it's not unheard of, but for us to do it on all the stuff was very oh, okay.
Right.
I was
just a little different.
Not just skeptical, but hesitant, but I don't know. But it was a lot, after the first couple, it was a lot more oh, okay, now this is fun because I get to talk with Mikey about plugins, and we mess around and stuff with, different sounds.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of flexibility on the post-end side of things. Yeah. No, it's a fascinating field. I keep on learning more and more about it.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm talking about that thing we have over the microphone, and I'm like, well, what about, these headsets? This is
that's true.
This is pretty remarkable. And with every song that we recorded on that album, I feel like we got better at not only the recording, but just our understanding of how the process works, because we really knew nothing when we made our first single, Simplify. Looking back on that, oh my God, was there so much extra work that not only we did that we didn't need to do, but that we kind of hoisted on Michael, having just not known what the process was like. So he's been really, really patient and flexible with us as we've learned how you should work with a producer. So I really appreciate that.
There's a lot to it. I think a lot of people, when you come into something like that for the first time, you have a lot of assumptions, and you just got to kind of chill out, respect the process, know that it's not going to be perfect every time, and let it be. And with the third or fourth song you record, suddenly it's more fun.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So the single. Tell me about the single. When did that one come out, and who helped record that one? Was that also Scott's brother?
Yeah.
I already forgot his name.
Michael. Are you talking about Simplify?
Yes.
Yeah. That was the first song we recorded, and we had that one finished before we even started a second one, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That also took, I think, by far the longest.
Definitely.
Maybe there's one other song that maybe Staying In took around the same amount of time, but Staying In had a lot more elements, whereas I think it was just we didn't know what we were doing on our end for Simplify, so that definitely I feel added to why
that was the main reason, I think.
Yeah. Okay, well.
No, after we got the single, though, we were all so amazed by it that we decided to work with Michael on an entire album, and
it came out great, I've got to say. I really enjoy Simplify. It sounds good. It sounds professionally done.
Glad you like it. Yeah, it is. Yeah, Michael knows what he's doing.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you guys realize, but had you played on Big Heavy World stream, because I went and got interviewed by Abby, and I was like, who should I play on my show? Well, I'm going to have you on.
My gosh, I did not know that.
So we played Simplify. That's on her. So Abby does, this is an aside, but Abby does the Abstract podcast, and she does playlists for every single interview, basically. And even if you don't play music, she's like, what songs do you want me to play?
Cool. Well, thanks for the shout out. That's amazing. I appreciate that.
I just wanted to let you know, because that was Simplify, and I was I was stoked about it. Not that I hadn't listened to it before,
Well,
but
still, that's really thoughtful of
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
yeah, you guys should get in touch with them on the
Yeah,
Radiator.
we
and
do
have
need
it been
to.
on.
Absolutely.
We haven't, but we have been meaning to.
Yeah.
So we gotta figure that out. But
Definitely.
Yeah, eventually at some point. Random aside, I like Big Heavy World a lot.
Yeah, Big
I
Heavy
like to
World is
shout them out.
awesome. Yeah.
Good people there. Anywho, the album. Now I need details. Tell me what you can tell me, because I don't want you to spoil anything, but I want to know about it. How long, like how many songs are going to be out on this one?
This is a 10-song album. We've played all of the songs that are on the album live before.
at least once.
At least once, yeah. I think 2 of them on the album. That would be Will I See You and Let's Just Dance Together. We've only played those each once, so we're hoping to play both of those a little bit more before the album releases, which right now we're looking at kind of a mid-spring release date, like late April, early May. So
Okay.
when we have a show, it's like walkable and not,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and you should definitely have an album release get-together
Absolutely
show.
have to, yeah.
Because why
mandatory.
not?
Yeah, so it's a 10-song album.
So it's not an EP, it's a real
No,
album.
it's
No,
a full-length album. I put all the songs back to back, and I think I figured out that it's like 38, 39 minutes, something like that.
Solid.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Like the normal
average
average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there any sort of theme to it? All your music kind of flowed well together, but is there any? Obviously, you're still getting started, and you're kind of putting everything together. But is there any specific message? Or
Sure,
theme
yeah.
to
I
it?
mean, I would say that not in every single song is there a message. Like, the first track on the album, Sundog, is pretty much just about having a fun time snowboarding. So that is not about, I don't sing about snowboarding in any other songs. But, I would say there's a unifying theme. I didn't write every song on the album. There's one song Eric wrote and then one song Mitch wrote. So I think that actually those 2 songs do kind of tie into the theme of the album, which, not to, belabor the point any further.
I think they do. Yeah. I think they both thematically fit with the.
Absolutely. Anyway, I would say it's kind of about just like losing touch, and time moving on and relationships changing, and kind of the melancholy of that, but also kind of the acceptance of it, I suppose. There's themes of that on more than half the songs, I would say, just like the inexorable march of time and so on and so forth. I think particularly in regards to just how human relationships change.
That they do. That they certainly do. I think everyone I've met had these weird moments in either their mid or late 20s where they're like, whoa, this is life. Like,
Yeah,
this is what it
100%.
is.
It's, Stevie Nicks wrote Landslide when she was 27. And, children get older, I'm getting older too. And, in interviews, she said, you can feel really old at 27. And I first heard that when I was 26. So that really stuck with me.
No, it's true. That's the thing is like the amount of people I know who have kids that are like going to high school soon. And I'm like, whoa, I am not an adult compared to you.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean,
I feel that daily.
Right, we graduated high school
100%.
together.
I mean, I teach 3rd and 4th grade, and all of parent-teacher conferences with parents who are my age, and it just floors me every time. I'm like, we live different lives.
Yes, exactly. Like, whoa, we took the same amount of time to do very different things.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so I love to hear that you guys are intermixing on the songwriting. What's the process like? Do you it sounds like you jam together on a weekly, if not bi-weekly basis. Are you coming up with stuff as you're practicing? How does it work? I always am asking of these questions because some people are like, I show up with the lyrics and then we go from there. Or they're like, no, he started jamming and I started humming and things just came together.
We don't jam, I would say, really at all. Except you and Eric sometimes get into a groove when we're wrapping things up, and then Scott jumps in occasionally.
That's true. Yeah.
But those almost
Those don't-
never turn
Those
into songs.
jams aren't real.
They're just fun.
They're filler. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like we all have our instruments and we're waiting for something to happen. Yeah, like you're either like tuning or something.
Yeah.
You're doing something.
Usually it sounds like Wipe Out by the Beach Boys.
That's true. Yeah, it does also.
Yeah, I would say that whoever wrote the shell of the song, I don't want to say that I wrote Simplify because I wrote it on guitar and I brought the guitar part to the band, but then everybody added so much to it that it is now like, I don't know. I listened to my original demo of it right after we gotten like the final version. I was like, whoa, the song's really changed. And I think that happens to every song that I bring. And I think that's happened for Mitch and Eric as well.
Yeah.
Not to speak for you.
I honestly think Eric's may have been the closest. Well, like things were added, but like, I don't know. His was
that may be
pretty.
true.
He had like, because he made a whole demo of the song he wrote before bringing it to the band. So it kind of does vary depending on song.
True.
But then we kind of all embellished and did our own versions of the things he'd sort of done a demo of.
Right.
So
Yeah, kind of natural, not too
Yeah.
fixed. See, I always think of I don't know if you guys know the band Between the Buried Me. They
heard of
actually
them.
compose. Yeah, they compose everything and then they learn it.
what?
So like people have such weird
Yeah.
methods of doing
Yeah.
these things. So it's always funny here because that's it. Some people are very rigid, but then they come off in like a punk rock way where you're like,
Right,
I can't
yeah.
believe you're like this strict on how you write this because it doesn't come off. It comes off more like fun than you'd think.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely have like when anybody brings a song to the band and then we decide to work on it, usually we'll get the song introduced to the band and then we'll like jam on a part for a little bit and then we'll move on to the next part and then go back to like, let's play the whole song, let's hear this part in context, and then often we'll open it up to be like, okay, what can we change here? We were working on a song that I wrote the shell of. The shell. This past Saturday, and we engaged in, or maybe it was actually a week ago. I don't know. Anyway, Eric brought up that he was like, this part needs to develop in a different way. And I was like, interesting thought. And anytime anybody suggests something, we always try it, We don't shut down suggestions without giving it a shot first. And
Right.
I think that's a pretty hard and fast rule of YABAI. If someone has an idea, we try it. And then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And sometimes songs have changed pretty substantially as a result of that, and sometimes they haven't.
Right. Well, that's how you find something new, right? You got to try it. You can't just.
Yeah, I also think it's kind of disrespectful to anybody who has an idea and then you just say, "No, we're not going to try that." Like, ideas are worth the time in practice.
Right. Because that's it. Every time the band that comes out that the rest of the world rips off for the next 3 years, they did something different, right? And it wasn't. You can't plan on something new because it hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
That's kind of the whole point of it. And creativity. You got to have that room to breathe and grow and.
Yeah,
build the clay
yourself
statue
into
and
any
let
kind
it
of way.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, cool. So everybody writes, everyone sings. Very impressive. It's cool that everyone sings. Like, that's really kind of unique. Most bands kind of have one person who just doesn't get a microphone.
Well, sometimes
Yeah.
that's Scott
Yeah.
because most venues only have 3 mics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scott
like,
can
yeah.
yell.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
also a great singer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I got to hear him, I guess, at that basement show I went to. Must be, right? Was that?
Yeah.
December?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah, 'cause
Oh,
I've
he had
s-
a
I s-
mic and he was
he was talking.
Yeah, he was loving
talking.
it. You got to give him a mic every
I
time.
think he definitely mentioned that he's like, well, I don't normally have one of these.
And his banter became hilarious because he
good.
suddenly could say things.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was a fun show. That's it. I got to see the tail end of you guys, but it wasn't really you guys because Fisher was singing. Down in
Oh,
Montreal.
that's how it
Montpelier.
shows.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one, and then the basement show. I've seen those two.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
funny. Yeah. Shout
Oh
out
my
to
god,
Fisher.
yeah. I had laryngitis for like 2 months this past fall, and it totally got in the way of things. And Fisher thankfully was able to step in and sing a few of our songs, and then we also did songs that Eric was able to fill in on lead for one. Mitch was able to fill in on lead for another. I think one of our most iconic songs I barely even sing on, which is "Must Be Free," which is Mitch wrote that. Actually, you got to explain "Must Be Free." Come on.
Oh, sure.
Sorry,
It is. It's like
Tell me.
it's entirely different genre-wise than all of our other songs. It's a like minute and 20-second hardcore song.
Oh yeah,
Which
okay.
is consists of me. I'm supposed to ramp up, but depending on where we play in the set, I usually just scream most of it.
Yeah.
But the entirety of it is just me saying, if the item doesn't scan, it must be free. So I say that 3 times, and then there's like a little like hardcore "must be free" like interlude thing, and then it's just that one more time, and then that's the whole song.
It's a great
very
punk
fun,
song.
very
Yes.
fun to play.
I remember it.
very easy to
distinctly.
play. We don't practice it.
Yeah.
Like we learned
do
it,
not
and we
rehearse
don't
it.
need to practice it.
Raw. No, it's perfect. That was the greatest like self-checkout song ever. There's something very legit about that because apparently that's what everyone does. They
Oh, it's self-checkouts? I have heard
Yeah,
about that. That's not
yeah.
exactly what it's about. It's so funny because I work in retail as like my day job. So a lot of times people will just like whenever something doesn't ring up or doesn't have a price or whatever, they'll be like, oh, it must be free. So it's kind of coming from that perspective. But then, yeah, I've also heard that's an interesting new one of like, I haven't really heard the self-checkout
Yeah,
thing.
no, that's
but I have
new to
heard
me
of people
too.
doing that.
Oh, yeah.
So like, it's definitely a thing.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
They said they're losing like millions and millions of dollars.
some of that seems very like,
because
no.
there's all these different methods of doing it where you hold a cheap item under an
my God.
expensive item and toss them.
That's so sophisticated.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're very serious about this. They've got all
Dang.
sorts
That's
of
like,
stuff they're doing. The way they weigh the cheap vegetable instead of paying for the expensive thing.
I will say that
I'm
when I'm
just
doing
buying
the
it all
self checkout and
conventional.
I'm like, picking out which produce item this is when I'm paying at the register, I'm always like, what if I put white onion instead of yellow onion?
the
But I
people
never
that do
it.
inventory,
I
they're like,
never
"Oh,
do it. I always put what it actually is
Yeah, I
every
do
single
too.
time.
Right, we try. Most
Well,
of us try.
Well, I don't know if it's a value
Yeah,
thing.
no.
I think it's just what I
Well,
do.
With produce specifically, I haven't thought about this, but I don't know. It's very.
It's all pretty
I
low
feel like
dollar,
in my
usually.
brain, I'm usually thinking of like is that like Target and stuff like that, or like those kinds of stores? Because I've heard of a lot of people doing that kind of thing. Where but as far as groceries, that is funny. Just like I don't know exactly what my point was there, but like I don't know.
People are
Very-
weird. People
yeah.
are real weird with that.
Yeah,
'Cause
I think if I was like,
I'll scan something and it won't scan, and I'll call them over, and I've had the worker take it, look at me, and throw it in my bag. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, all right, as long as you did it.
There's like, you
They're
go to
like,
the
"I
Price
don't."
Chopper just up the road from here, the Mallets Bay one.
Yeah, that's right where I live.
Yeah. So you probably know that if you go in there without the store card, they ask you, do you have a store card? And then you say
God.
no. And then every single time you're like, okay, I'll scan the store one. Never once have I asked.
Whoa.
Every single time I have ever gone to that grocery store, and it's on my way home, so I go there fairly often. They scan the store one for me. And I'm always like,
Yeah.
thanks. I wonder what the deal is with that. But I'm glad.
Someone in the store gets the points. That's why they love
That's a
doing it.
win-win.
That's
Right?
a
One of them
win-win.
gets free groceries
Yeah,
for like
I
bit.
get a discount.
Right? Exactly. Like all the wit. I love that store. It's so tiny.
It is tiny.
So, okay, here's a random other grocery shopping thing. I have a feeling because you pick the right produce, do you always put your cart in the cart kiosk?
Oh yeah,
well, that's
of course.
I feel like those are different levels of category. Like one, it's like,
You steal a couple
Screwed,
bucks from
yeah, like a
a
store.
a Mega Mart,
cares?
whatever. But you get in an actual human being's way and make somebody have to go out in the rain to get your cart, or no,
Yeah.
that's an entirely different. That's indecent.
This
Yeah,
is
it's
a
really
very
bad.
baseline. This is a personality test of
like,
baseline. Are you a good person? Is do you put the cart
Like-
back? And if they say no, then you give them a skeptical look.
Oh yeah, you got to glare so intensely that it can be heard in the podcast.
Yes, exactly. Like, why? Why can't you put your cart away? I never got that. I never
It just take a dang second.
There's a good it probably is a Vine, but there's a good little clip that's like someone be like, "Oh, you don't want that cart?" And like after someone just left it, someone like, "Oh yeah," like I'll put it away, and then they just put it behind the person's car and walk away.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Oh my god, the other day I was
like,
I was at Hannaford and I was getting something from one of the fridge aisles, and I had not noticed, but two fridge doors over from me, it was wide open. Whoa. And some other guy said, "Oh, do you need me to close that for you?" And he was just another civilian, non-employed. And I did not know what he was talking about because I didn't realize what was going on. So I said, "Huh?" in that exact voice. And he said, and then he had closed it. He's like, "Oh, sorry, never mind. Yeah, sorry." And then he walked away, and I was like, "Huh?"
He assumed you left it open.
Yeah, I think he assumed I left it open.
Yeah,
I don't know. It was baffling for a moment. Why did he apologize to me twice? I'll never know.
Probably because he realized he was being a bit of a dick.
Maybe.
When you're like, "Huh?" And he's like, "Oh, wait, maybe you didn't just intentionally leave
nothing
this
to do
door
with you."
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah,
but
I suppose so. Did he go into that interaction trying to be passive aggressive? I don't know.
I don't know.
I have
If
no
he
idea.
feels like
What
it,
was
if
the
he said
tone?
if he said something to you, like, "I'll close the door for you."
Look. The darkest version of me thinks, "What a passive aggressive dumb piece of shit." Maybe he wanted to actually do me a favor. Who knows? I don't know who he
he
is.
was doing a good thing.
Yeah,
He was, right?
Yeah.
He just, he was probably having a bad day.
Or maybe he was having a good day and wanted to do me a favor.
Whoa.
Could be. But either way, I went,
Schrodinger's friggin'. Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
I don't know, just an odd interaction.
freezer aisle equivalent of putting the cart away.
Yes, that is. Thank you.
That's true,
That's
though.
why I told that story. I could not have remembered that.
No worries. Hey, grocery store etiquette is very important, people.
Oh yeah. Anytime you're in a place,
And that's like half the songs on the album are about. So it ties right back in.
yeah, it's pretty much the grocery store. That's the Weird Al
Working
title of this album.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, so late April is when you're shooting for on that one. What are we at for time? We are at 38 minutes. Is there anything specific that you want to share about the band? Any stories you want to share? Anything important that I haven't asked about that we haven't covered yet? So we should definitely cover it if there's anything you want to bring up.
Oh, well, we got a couple upcoming shows. March 6th at Despacito. We are playing with Dogwater, and we're really, really excited to play with them because, we've been friends with them for pretty much since we started gigging around in June, but we've never played a show with them. So we're really excited. We were both asked by the same touring group to support them.
Cool.
And actually, Dogwater DM'd YABAI and was like, "We are so excited to finally play with you." And, it's very much reciprocated. So definitely come to that show. It's the Dogwater YABAI
Show?
Yeah, show is a great word for what I was going to... Yeah, I like that. Show.
Let's go with
I was
show.
going for some sort of highfalutin kind of a thing, but let's go with show.
Just falutin is enough
It's
sometimes.
the Dogwater you buy, falute. That's Falute.
I don't think I've heard Dogwater. Are they also kind of pop punky? What are they from?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would describe them as pop punk. They're alt rock, and they're within the greater Burlington punk-ish scene. I mean, I'm not even sure if I would describe us as punk necessarily, but we certainly are friends with Valerie Falls.
It's a really hard thing defining genres. Last guy I talked to had Cajun-soaked rock.
Oh.
That sounds delicious.
It is, actually. It's like mind-bogglingly good, and it's not like country at all. But he's like Danish and Florida roots, and then they live near Boston, and like the weirdest group of accents that come off as straight American. It's really weird.
Very intriguing.
Right. Oh, yeah, definitely. Anywho, random aside, but it's really hard to pin down genres, and some bands are very rigid about what you say, and I just want to give give the breathing room to whatever people want to define themselves as.
That's why I just say that we're indie rock, because that's such a wide umbrella, and I certainly don't think we're reinventing the wheel with our music, but I'm proud of what we do, and I don't think there's other bands that sound exactly like us, so, I don't think it's the most unique thing in the world, but I definitely really like the music we make.
I think we have our own sort of thing going on within that, though. Like, you could put us on like a playlist with other like generically large indie rock as the genre, and it would be like, yeah, it's fine, it fits in with that. But like, yeah, I do think we also there was, I can't remember who it said, but someone said this to you, Phil, I believe. I said that, like, described us as like Weezer if Weezer was an indie rock band.
Yeah,
and I thought
that's really
funny.
Interesting. No, I could, I could kind of feel it. Yeah,
yeah. The most prescient comments I have ever heard about YABAI.
Yeah.
No, that was Tristan Gillis.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Solid. Shout out to Tristan. Oh man, yeah, no, it's hard to pin that kind of thing down, and honestly, it just kind of feels like a bucket that you get put in, which honestly is not always the best thing to be pigeonholed into one specific thing.
When we upload our music to streaming, it's like pick 3 genres, and it's like, okay, we're not classical, we're definitely not Christian folk, we're for sure not Aboriginal music, so. Not any of those 3. All right,
is it like a drop-down menu?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay.
I think Aboriginal came to me because it's A and then B.
Oh,
okay. So I see it a lot. But
there's got to be like thousands of genres at this point.
Yeah, but then you have to pick a mood for each song, and there's like 25 moods, and some of them.
Spotify specific?
I forget if it's Spotify or just like the.
Because I don't think Bandcamp would have that, but
No,
I can see Spotify for their
this is
playlist
CD Baby, which then you pay like $10 a song, and then they distribute it out on Spotify and YouTube and Apple Music and just the whole host of.
Yeah, CD Baby's interesting. The guy that made that company is an interesting read.
Ooh, that's enticing. I may have some homework to do.
Random dork things. If you're a nerdy kind of person, it's interesting.
Look at me. My goodness.
If you like tech stuff. But, all of the bands, I talked to so many musicians from like, if you're on those distro services, that's really cool. That's a good, I think they cost a little bit, but it's so much less effort than having to do it on Spotify,
100%.
Having to do it on Bandcamp, having to do it on YouTube, having to do it on Instagram. And like, it kind of spreads it around. And also to the weird ones that we don't all know.
And I was looking at Spotify data, and actually like a solid third of our listeners comes from like song radios for random people and like Discover Weeklies and stuff like that. And I don't know. Look, Spotify is a monstrous evil thing, but I still like it when the numbers go up. And
of course.
You know what? I'll admit it. But I don't know. I don't expect us to ever make money off this. And we're not really trying to. We all have day jobs that we're not interested in quitting. And it's just cool to know that there's people listening to our music all over the world.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like, Spotify sucks, right? We can all agree.
We know.
Spotify sucks. Yeah. But there's a reason that people... everyone gravitates to these social media platforms and things. That's where the listeners are. That's where the people are. Mm. I know so many people whose only intention of making a Facebook account was because their friends were on Facebook.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they can see all of your music that you share on Facebook. So these weird buckets of humanity. Okay, fine. People are on Spotify. Begrudgingly fine.
100%.
But yes, no, it's good when the numbers go up. Like, obviously, that's a good thing.
Anytime any number I'm associated with goes up, I'm like, yay, a little bit of dopamine. Thank you.
Exactly. Oh, man. I could go on a whole rant about that. There's these really interesting studies they're doing on dopamine and cell phones and social media.
Uh-huh.
My God. It was really, really interesting.
Oh, man, you and I could have a whole other episode about that because I also have opinions.
Whoa.
Whoa.
I don't. Never thought a thought.
But people should go and listen to you on all of the random streaming platforms. So then the numbers go up And you guys can go, yay.
If you want to give us a little bit of dopamine,
Yeah.
go listen to our music.
Yeah, we have a new single out as of a week or two ago, Staying In. So give that a listen and keep an eye out for the album Out of Touch, which should be releasing later this spring.
Nice. And you refer to your band as YABAI Band. I wanted to call that out because there's a couple like other things that use the same name, but most of them are not English speaking.
Right.
YABAI Band for Bandcamp, YABAI Band for Instagram, and YABAI Band for Facebook.
Yes.
So the big three. Really.
Yeah, although Facebook's straight up dead. Look on Instagram.
I really hope so.
No, I mean like the YABAI page is dead.
Yeah,
I don't pay attention to it. Look on Instagram.
I don't blame you.
That's funny.
Managing Facebook pages is the worst.
Yeah.
I just want to
It's
say
very
that.
at this point too, I feel like a lot of people have just generally gravitated to not using it as much.
Right.
At least that I know. I don't know. I'm sure obviously millions still use
The
it. But
hard thing is the events.
yeah, I do miss that,
Events
honestly.
are the one thing that Facebook excels at. And if I don't go on Facebook, I miss the events.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to find a way to separate the band shows from the social media so I can still go without having to Facebook.
It's a necessary evil for now.
I do miss the dopamine I'd get from hitting a like maybe on an event that I just know I'm not going to go to. Like, there's something about that. I was like, yeah, maybe it'll change. I don't know. And then the day off, I'm like, there's just no way.
But there's no obligation.
I said maybe.
Totally.
And there are always like 500 people said maybe.
Yeah.
4 people
This is
going.
our going. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I want to say thank you. Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, thank you for having us, Becca.
Thank you. YABAI, the band.
Goodbye.
Shout out to Eric. Shout out to Scott. Sorry you guys couldn't be here today. I hope you feel better soon. I'm going to rattle off some links real quick. Late April. What is the album called again?
Out of Touch.
Out of Touch. And your latest single,
Staying In.
Staying In. Okay. And Facebook.com/YABAI Band. YABAI on Spotify. I didn't get the link right, but YABAI exclamation point.
The exclamation
on
point is
Spotify.
key. There's a lot of random other, like, I think there's a couple rappers and at least one other band called YABAI. We're the one with an exclamation point. So when you search us, search with the exclamation point. We did it for SEL, but now I just love it on an emotional level. So
I just have always liked I was a big fan from the get-go of the exclamation point. Once we all capsed.
all caps
There's
exclamation
no-
point.
yeah.
That's the band name.
Yeah.
Right. That's how you have to say it, too.
YABAI!
Exactly. Cool. Okay. And the Instagram is YABAI Band. I mentioned that. And the Bandcamp is YABAI Band.
Yes.
And the show notes for this episode, which will have all of these links on them, as well as transcript of today's episode and random other things. I usually embed a couple songs from the bands, things like that. Check it out at vermonttalks.com/54 for this episode. I think we're good. Thank you both for coming on the show, and thank everybody for listening. Have a good day, y'all. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to the end of the show. Subscribe to Vermont Talks on your favorite podcasting platform. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all over the web. Contact Becca at vermonttalks.com if you'd like to be interviewed or if you know someone who should be. Thanks so much to Jason Baker for creating the show music. The views and opinions expressed by the guests are those of the individuals and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Vermont Talks. Any content or statements provided by our guests are of their opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, anyone, or anything. And that's what was new in the 802. Have a great day.